So Cycling 74 makes Max, Max MSP. Max is named after the father of computer music, Max Matthews. MSP is Miller Puckett, who's still alive, who makes computer music. And the third component of Max is called Jitter. And Jitter was actually developed by Luc Dubois, who's the director of our IDM program. So that's what he uses when he does live graphics. For instance, he just played live at Carnegie Hall 2 weeks ago and saw that one. That was fun. Once installed, Max is one of those fun programs that has a blank canvas, which can be intimidating. Okay, where's Max? There it is. Still getting started. I can close all this extra stuff. There it is, after long last. So Max, this is the console of Max. It's where it prints string to. We could say new patcher. And Max is somewhat intimidating at first because it has nothing here. And that can kind of be a blessing and a curse. But I'm going to show you how to kind of navigate it with some very minimal ease. We're barely going to do Max. We're just using it to send out values like float numbers, integer numbers, and strings, and then connect over UDP. We're not doing all the amazing things that Max can do. We're just sending out some stuff so that we can trigger things, right? And there's many ways of doing it. I'm going to authorize this in the meantime so that we can save and I can share everything with you. Cool. So it looks like we're now ready to go. So across the top of Max, we have a couple of boxes, and you drag these boxes in, and they have different functionality. So the first one I want to bring in is potentially a toggle, right? And right now I can edit things around, I can move things around, right? But if I lock it here at the bottom left, I can interact with it, right? So unlock means I can edit with it, and then lock means I can work with it. Right, so I'm going to unlock and continue to add some other things. This one's a button. There's different kinds of buttons. I'm going to use the default one. So a toggle would send a 1 or a 0. A button just sends a bang. It just it says execute, right? We have a number. If I just drag off the first number, it is a integer number. If I hold down, I should have a chance to do a float number, right? So this one, which you may not be able to see unless I make it a little bigger, has a decimal point for a float. Cool. And then we also have messages. All right, so messages can be Todd is here. And then we have what are actual objects. Objects are basically function boxes. There are things that could execute code, do certain things with them. And one of the first functions we're going to look at is called send and receive. So I want to first of all, I want to see what this toggle does. And I can put my little message box here, my console, and say new object. What is this object? Well, I'm going to type in the letter P, R. You see it starts giving me suggestions, just like Unreal does. I'm going to print what is happening to here, right? Lock it back up, or I can say Control click and lock and unlock. And then you can see them printing a 1 and a 0. I'm also interested in seeing what happens here. That's a bang, right? Then we have an integer. We have a float. A float depends on where you are in the box and how you drag it. So if I wanted to be in my thousandths, I drag over here, but I can still drag integers if I drag over here, right? It all depends on where you're dragging inside the box. Cool. That can connect. And then finally, I have Todd is here. Cool. Now it looks like already horrible spaghetti. And I had spaghetti for dinner last night. So I'm going to hold down Alt, select all these, delete, delete. And I'm going to put print down here at the bottom. And I'm going to do a new object, which is I can either drag in an object from here, or you see it has these little tooltips says I can bring an object with the button in. You say in for receive, right? And then I have, and as you would imagine, I have a function for send. And it's telling right now I need an argument. I need to say, what am I sending and how would receive know, if I had two sends, how would it know which one to get it from? So you need to give it a name. So you can say as Bob, and it doesn't matter what I call it as long as it gets from Bob. So this one sending to Bob, and this one is receiving from Bob. Even though there's no wire between them, we have an invisible tunnel, right? Print off and on. So that could be something where you can hold down Alt and, oops, that's help file. And this keeps everything a little bit more nice, right? You saw that I could do a help file if I hold down Control and click. There's it. Alt and click. I can actually bring up the help file, which tells me everything I can do with these things, right? It shows also that send can just be an R and an S. I don't have to worry about actually writing out the whole word. So I'll do that. I'll say, and I know that I want to be sending eventually going to be sending UDP. So let me say new object, receive UDP. And the fun thing about this is I'm going to send you guys this patch, so you don't have to do it yourself. You can actually, copy and paste to success. So we're going to send UDP. Cool. And I'm just holding down Alt to make a duplicate of it. Cool. And so now everything has the functionality, right? You can lock it, or I'm holding down Control to like test drive something. Great. So we're sending it. So now we have we're going to OSC, and I've been saying OSC is basically UDP that's like an internet protocol, right? It's put on addresses. So we're ultimately going to be sending this to IP addresses on addresses, right? So I would want to send it maybe some data onto let's first of all let's test sending data over the internet to myself. All right. So instead of saying send UDP, we're going to say, or instead of printing it out, we're going to say new UDP send. And then we need to choose, it's telling us what we need to choose. We're going to choose localhost, which is this computer. And then we need to choose a port. It doesn't matter what the port is, as long as it matches. And so 8000 is usually a port that works with Unreal. Cool. And so now I'm printing out, but I'm also sending UDP. I can now receive UDP, or say UDP receive, and just make sure it matches a port. Which port am I getting it from? I want it to match the receive. Cool. And now it should go to print. So what's the difference between this send and receive and this send and receive? It would appear nothing, but this one is using the network adapter on the card, right? It's not really that amazing here because you're not seeing it go to another computer. And this is another reason why we have our VPN to be able to send it to other computers. So I have the other computer that I normally use when I teach right here. We're going to sign in and then open up Max here. And we're going to take note of the fact that this computer is on 192.168.194.61. So I'm going to change that on this one and say, can you send on 192.168.194. What was it again? 61? Yeah, 61. .61. So now it won't go to here. If done correctly, it should go over here. And Max is still starting up. We'll give it a second. Cool. So here it is. This is on my remote computer, right? This is and this one's at the Navy Yard, whereas this one right here is with me here in North Carolina. Cool. So we're different states. We're gonna say new patcher, and I don't care about saving the trial because we're not gonna do much here besides say new object UDP receive, and we just want to match 8,000. This one's just listening on port 8,000. It does not know what UDP it's being sent from. We don't care. We're indiscriminate where it receives from. Let's make the object for printing. It's being a little slow. All right. So I'm gonna lock it. And we should see, look, I bound to port 8,000. And let's see if we can send it across the internet. Lock it up. And then look at that. We're getting internet protocol. So we're traversing the web. And that's super fun. Right? That's super easy. See how it's lightweight. It's instant. There's no delay. If you saw any delay, the delay would really be on the side of my TCP, which is the remote software, the remoting in protocol, not the actual show control protocol. Right. So Bangs and Todd is here. We talk to be in North Carolina and Brooklyn at the same time. Cool. So we're doing floats and bools, integers, yeah, strings. These are all the different data types we might want to use for show control. Some of the other things we might want to do are potentially let's see. So for right now, actually, what's kind of fun is I can select all these objects, say copy all or say select all, and then I can do something called copy compressed. You can only do this if you have it activated. With copy compressed, I can send it to you folks on Slack or an email or whatever. Right? So if you now take this data, copy it, and then say new from clipboard, it'll make another one for you. So if you guys want to try it at home, you have Max installed. In the meantime, you can always install it if you want. You don't have to have a license to open this one up, I don't think. You can make this, lock it, and then other folks can actually do the show control, and then you can actually send it to my computer in Brooklyn too. So if anyone feels like doing that, they're welcome to do it right now. And we can see that other people are doing show control and getting Max up and running. So yeah, again, the copy compressed, take those numbers and you say new from clipboard, and look, a ghost is now controlling across the internet waves, right? So this is the basics of show control. We're sending numbers here and there. That's really awesome, right? I'll continue to work on this patch. I can see another version of it when I get done with class. I just want to give you this one to start off with. Everyone's now sending it remotely over this IP address. Cool. You might want to do some other things in Max. For instance, we have these this float numbers, or you have integer numbers. Sometimes I don't want to deal with, like, let's say I'm doing lighting adjustments, and my lights are going to be between, I don't know, 500 and 10,000, and I don't want to scroll that many numbers. I can actually say new scale, and it wants me to do an input low, high, output low, high. So my input is going to be from, I only want to choose between, I don't know, 0 and 10. But I want that number to equal 500 to 10,000. Cool. And I connect it here. And then when I print over here, you'll see that it's actually numbers that are in the thousands, right? It's scaling. All right, so that can be super useful. And then what's fun about this is that you can actually put in other float boxes. I'm just typing in the letter F and connect them. And you can change in real time what your scale is. If I want my scale to be more than 10,000, if I bring, or less than 10,000, I can make this just be like, I don't know, only 25. Then we'll see that this number is much lower. Right? I'm overriding it. So that's gonna be fun for finding values. What's fun is that you don't have to recompile Unreal if when you're adjusting it in Max. You can really, this is really great for prototyping. Great. This is a little bit messy, so I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this. But you see, you have these basically these little inlets and outlets, and you're just connecting the boxes just like you're doing it in Unreal. Great. So Unreal has OSC built in. I'm going to open up our shared project. So there's a folder for VPD final. So I'm doing this in the final project. So to see these changes, you'll have to pull. I'm going to make sure I'm at the most recent version. This is a new computer, so I need to make sure I'm connected. This is an old folder, sorry. Last year. There we go. I'm going to pull here. Update. And I'm at revision 61, right? We just saw that there's been an addition to this map right here. I'll open it up. And then I can bring over the documentation for Unreal Engine OSC. This was not native or vanilla to Unreal for a long time. It was a plugin that we had to use. We rely on that being updated, and now it's part of Unreal. And I have a small, I admit it, a small role in making it part of Unreal. I showed them how we use OSC for show control. I thought it was cool. So in Slack, I'll put a link to this just in case you need it as a reference. But essentially, it tells all about the fact that we can make a server, right? And now we've talked about client server, right? So we're going to create a server inside of Unreal. You can only have one server. That makes sense, and that the plugin used to allow you to make multiple servers, but then you have many points at which UDP is going into a project. It's better to have a centralized location for it to go in, and then distribute from there. And then the clients could be the ones that send it. Lots of mumbo jumbo, but what's cool about all this stuff is that this is how to send. Here's messages, patterns, all the stuff. That these are actually XML files that give us text, or gives us blueprints. I think that address to string, messenger index. How are these different? We'll just go here. So we're gonna say copy node graph, and then say control copy. And this is basically blueprint code, so you can pass this along Slack as well. We go back to our Unreal project, and I'm gonna go into my assets folder, make a new folder for blueprints, and call this one BP OSC parent. And we'll get into the idea of inheritance in a second. We'll open it up. Doodle-a-doo. And this doesn't have to have any assets in it. We're just going to do code with this one. So on event begin play, I want to, when I hit play button, I want to look for OSC coming in. This is what I copied and pasted from the help file. And look, all these OSC reliant functions are not here. I'm going to delete this, and I've realized that I have not turned on OSC for our project yet. So plugins, OSC, open sound control, now turned on, restart now. In the meantime, I can commit this and say, turned on OSC plugin. Now it's turned on for everyone. So it says right now that OSC is being locked by another user. Which is fine. I'll just grab a hold of it. And this is another good lesson to learn, is that I can take this file and say, I'll hold down Shift so I can see all my options. I'm going to get lock. I'm going to say steal lock and say boo, and somebody's going to get alerted that they have my file. Now I should be able to push commit. OSC plugin. Boom. We're at version 62. Fantastic. All right, so now that's restarted. I come back in here, open up the blueprint, and I'll begin play, and all the nodes show up. Let's get event begin play and connect it at the beginning. So when I hit play, let's do it local for right now. We're going to say 127.0.0.1. We're going to use port 8000 because that's what I told us we were going to do. Start listening here on localhost. So this is going to create a server. It's not storing that server, and I found that sometimes there's some issues with that. I'm going to go ahead and promote to variable. And that way it stores it. This is just something I've learned that after a while it kind of times out. But let's go ahead and store it as a variable so that it can find it and never forgets what it is. And we'll rename this variable OSC server. Boom. And then what happens when it on event begin play, this for one time only will create this event that every time it receives OSC, it'll send out a message of OSC, and then it's going to give us a string and a value. Now, the value right here it's looking for is an int, and we're going to want more than that. But for right now, let's start off here. All right, so we're going to go to, I'm going to go to a blank map. And throw in parent OSC. I'll go ahead and save this as assets maps. And this is going to be OSC test. So you guys can test your OSC localhost and this map. When I hit simulate, and then one thing might happen, and we'll see what happens 1 second. So I am sending now on this URL. Let's go back to localhost. I can send to multiple at the same time. All right, so I can unlock this and I can send also to localhost. I've noticed that localhost doesn't work. I can't type in the word localhost. I need to put my own IP address. So I'll do this one. Cool. and we'll see if it does anything. All right, I don't see anything being printed. Let's take a look at it and see if we're getting OSC. All right, so let's stop this and let's put in the same number here. So they match. All right, so let's see if we're receiving it all. To debug, we need to make sure that we're debugging our own blueprint. All right, there we go. I don't see it actually coming in at all. The first thing to test is that it is in a map. So if it's not going to work on just content browser as a regular blueprint. And so I think that the error here is this 194. 194, that can't be right. Is that right? Weirdly enough, it is. Let's try the other VPN real quick. That's just 192. Let's try a few different ways. It doesn't seem like I can do something there. One thing to note, though, is that my right now Unreal's in the background. And by default, sometimes if you look at your editor preferences and performance, it's using less CPU in the background. So it's actually paused when it's in the background. And Max is on top. So let's see if that fixes things. All right, let's go back to doing the one before. I want to test it accurately. That's it. The actual simulate. Nothing there. Let's see. You are. Let's check my my local host command prompt. I'm gonna say IP config all. Sorry, IP config. Let's do. I'm gonna do it like on my home router and try how that works. We could totally just do another one of these. And then we'll do one over here. We get to work. I've done it before. File, save all, play. All right. Let's save this. I haven't really used this computer before today. I'll save it. And I'm going to push the changes. So push the changes. I should have had a map too. Let me save. Make sure I make a map. Well, one of the things it's looking for. Okay, I'm gonna do one more test too. This is the wrong project. It is our share project. There's my OSC test map. All right. We can also push it on this computer. I'll go ahead and all right, there we go. Let's see if we can do it remotely over the VPN. So, because that's what you guys can do for the homework anyway. Still close it here. Or don't worry about it here. Close it. But the thing is that this has to be sent over a URL. So in Max, there's a button for Max. Yes, that's great. I might have actually been grabbing my own actually UDP now that I think about it. I was actually receiving it here, and you can only have one thing binded to a port at a time. So there we go. That's live demos for you. All right. Let's go ahead and do it remotely though, because that's more fun. I'll go to my test map, and it's called OSC test. And then let's open up the blueprint that's in there. It'll be easier because it won't bind to the other port, the only port on the computer. And we're going to look for it on it's receiving it on its own address, which is 192.168.194.61. Great. Compile, OSC test, hit simulate, and then come back here to Max, send it over. Actually, make sure that the same editor preference is not there. Performance, great, it's not, I want to make sure. And then we're going to send it over the same one. Let's see if we're getting it. One nine two dot 168.194.261 and 8,000. Okay. Everything should be working. Let's see what we're doing. Oh, I have an idea. If everyone has the previous max patch open that I sent out, go ahead and close it because I'd actually created like a loop back. And so that's probably what's causing effect. Is I bind it on my own, but I didn't realize I sent it to some other folks as well who could send things to me. So if you guys go ahead and close your max, we'll give it another shot. Let's call it show control. Ooh. And we'll prove we already have this working over there. So anyway, this thing is supposed to be sent on a URL. That's actually the part of the OSC protocols that it's not only is it internet protocol, but it has to go over addresses. So we're going to actually need to separate this data out anyway, because certain data only needs to go certain places. So let me add in the node for prepend. Right, this is just saying add on this address beginning and addresses for the internet. Start with a // and this one could be called bang, right? So let's send OSC bang, and let's even simplify it even more and just go directly in for right now before we get too fancy. So that should be going all the way over here, binding over here. Start listening, server name. It's in there, it's live. Let's go to our plugin settings, and OSC will be at the very bottom. Those are plugins. Let's go to plugin settings. At the bottom, UDP should be fine. Dun, dun, dun. We know the VPN works. We know that we're debugging it here. Let's do let's do local one more time then, because I wasn't sending it. And then we'll go back to using the local one, which is 194.194. If that doesn't happen, we'll move on to the next stuff, and we'll readdress the stuff later on. All right, so we're going to go to maps, OSC test level. The blueprint's in there. It's going to be receiving on the local host, which was .194.194. Compile, play. Oh, so it's going through. Yay. Well, at least it's working on local host. But can I see it here? Like, there it is. It's behind. All right. Let's go back over here. I'm feeling a little more cocky. I was a little worried there that everything wasn't going to work. So we're still trying to receive locally here. We can make two nodes. And this one can be sending over to 61. All right, sending on both computers. I think I was just covering up the information and making myself freak out. It was actually working all along. Cool. So you guys can send it to these computers as well. Everything's fine. All right. So if you were to send bang to 160 to 61, it would receive. Great. So we're receiving a OSC, and you can see that we're sending it on these URLs. Right. So we can receive them on different channels. This one is going to be bang, and if we send it on here, right, that's actually, let's change this one to say toggle. Let's make this organized again. So this one's going to be toggle. This will be bang. Cool. Don't need this anymore. And then when we receive UDP, we're going to send it both to my local host or my local computer address, and then also the one remotely. So now we see that we're getting toggle values and bang, right? That's great. The additional word value is from let's not worry about it. Cool. We'll just do localhost for now. So I'm not remoting into my computer if I don't need to. Great. So we now have everything's coming. It's prepending these words address and value there. We don't need this anymore. So we're going to get rid of it. And then what we do care about, we're not going to filter out index just yet. What we just need to have is the address and what is being sent on the address. That's all I care about. We're going to make a new thing called an event dispatcher. An event dispatcher is if you drag it out, you see it's actually has a little letter here. So it says it's going to send it everywhere. And what are we going to send it? We're going to send it both a string and an OSC message. So the first thing we're going to send it is the address, and the address is type OSC address. It's actually the type is OSC. Yes, address. Type that in. And then we're going to send it also the string data or whatever the information is. That's going to be a string. Let's compile. Is it a message or is it an address? I think we'll see in a second. Can this be both? Let's try message first, actually. OSC message. Cool, and that way we can just pull it up from here, and data will be from here. And needs to execute itself, and there you go. Cool. Now, I don't want this OSC parent anymore. The OSC parent is done. You guys don't have to touch the OSC parent besides making a child of it. When you go to your assets and blueprints and you right click on here, you're going to say make a child blueprint class. And here you see that it's getting all the information from parent. On event begin play, we want to get all actors of class. We want to make sure that every single one of these actors of OSC parent is being grabbed. And then we need to find that dispatch event. So grab everything and grab all the data coming through dispatch. So we're going to assign dispatch. It presents, again, this function that will bind to this event. And every time we get OSC, we will get the address and the data. And what can we do with that? Well, for instance, we have a toggle or we have a bang. We can, first of all, let's make a copy of this. And we'll call this one light. I'm going to go into my personal map, which was LVL Todd. And I have this is the blueprint I made in class. I'll go to my blueprints and I'll add in OSC. It doesn't need to say parent anymore. Rename. Rename. Right, we're going to say Todd Light or whatever I want. All right, this can go in. And you see by default, we can add in a light back here. say point light. And now there's a point light in here. Cool. And at play, at runtime, I want to be able to turn that off and on. Did not mean to do it here. But we want to do it in the Todd light. Point light. Cool. There's a point light in here. It's in that world. And then when I begin graph, I want to filter by if this equals one second. Okay.
Cool. So
Okay.
all we're doing so far is connecting our project.
There's myself. Oops. The data is coming from message for sure. Going to full path. So I did the opposite way, which is cool because when I update the parent, it'll update all of them. Full path is actually the full path, right? The address. And this one is actually the message. That's the way it goes. Compile. I'll need to unplug them, compile, and then put it back in. And if you want to, you can always adjust what order they're in. Compile, set refresh, and plug them back in. Cool. So in here, we want to say the full path equals. Let's see. Full path equals. We want to rebind this node real quick because I'm making mistakes. Let's compile all this. Let's say assign OSC dispatch. Okay. All right, so now I'm using my microphone on my webcam. Sorry about that. My headphones cut out. And the dog is barking in the background. Cool. So OC equals a string, which is great. And if we're going to look at our max patch, we want to receive a bang. If anything happens on bang, then we're good. And what we want to do is that we want to grab a reference to the point light and say toggle visibility. Cool. So we apply this, hit simulate, direct OSC, and you see that we're toggling visibility. All right, so now we're doing show control. right? So, but I can also do toggle, and that does something as well, right? We actually even need a filter by address. This is just doing anything if it receives data at all, right? So to filter it, we would want to use a branch statement, which is like an if statement. It'd say equals bang, and then do a branch. Otherwise, anything I send it would have turned off and on light. And this is all going to be committed into the project, so you guys can take a look at all these. Cool. So yes, everything works. I hit bang, but when I hit toggle, nothing gets turned on. Cool. So you have other different values you can send. One of the cool things about Max that has sliders. So we could say, here is a slider. What kind of slider? I want to use like a knob. It sends values from 0 to 127, like a MIDI note. So I'd say new scale 0 to 127 would go to, I don't know, 500 to 10,000. I'm putting dots behind these, keep them as floats. And then we'd say new prepend and put one as intensity, or maybe since we're all be sharing this project, I'll say Todd intensity. All right. And then this one would also want to send to UDP. Right. So you can kind of make your canvas however big as you want it to put all your different show control. I'm just kind of making it kind of small so we can see everything together. Cool. So I'm going to send Todd intensity over here. So not only is it turned on, I can close this. I can say, if it's this, do that. Otherwise, look for, I wonder why it's not working like this. That's equal. And do Todd intensity with an N. If it's not here, then it's here. Grab a reference to that light again and say set intensity. And then if this is true, you're going to set the intensity. But I need to get a float number now, right? And you might have seen back in the parent class, there was get float at. So we're going to say get float OSC message at float. Cool. And this is where we need the message. Go ahead and do this. Take your message, click into there. You might have noticed if you double click on the lines to make these little reroute nodes, make it easier to reroute. So if the data is on top intensity, send it the message from the float. Cool. File, no errors, that's great. So I hit simulate, and now locally on Max, I can turn off and on, lock it, turn off and on, and when it's on, I can adjust how bright it is. And if I want it to be brighter than this, I can always live adjust it without having to worry about compiling Max or Unreal, and I have these values even brighter. If you're always not sure what it is, there's the numbers. You can always say, watch these values, and then you can watch it live, change these values, right? And you see everything matches. Cool. So this could also be an R, a G, and a B. So there's many different values you can make it run. Let's see how I can make this shorter so that I'm not dragging on too long. There's a couple of cool things about Max. I always love what's called the mood machine. if I edit this and then say new swatch, there's a color picker. If you go in the help file, there's a thing called the mood machine. Grab it, delete it, and I can say boom. New swatch. Go back in there again. Unlock, steal. Back over here. No, it's not. Hobby. Hey, that was being really frustrating. And what's fun about this is that's a little machine that changes intensity, right? And I have three values right here, right? So those three values could be my three index numbers here if I want to take apart three floats, right? So what's the value of index one, the value of index three? We could test that out and send it to the color of the light, right? This let's not do too much information. These branches can continue to cascade down. You can continue to do these things. They can also be replaced with a thing called a switch on name or switch on string. And then instead of saying branch, 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 it's only if it equals these different cases, does it go off of these different ones? All right, so what are different cases if it says bang, or Todd intensity. And then it's a little bit more more controlled, right? And then you just have one full path going here. And let's just try that out real quick. So we have this one. And then let's say create a child class from the parent. And this will be Todd Light 2. Go to the world. Two in the world. Again, for repetition's sake, add in a light. This one's already on. We can already make this one bright. Great. And then let's get all actors class, which was BP OSC parent. There you go. They're going to assign OSC dispatch. Great. Cool. And then this one could be a switch on string. Switch on string. And we could say we don't need the default, and we have Todd R, Todd G, Todd RGB B, oops, B. And then the data would say float at index. And then the first one would be that index. The next one would be at index 1. And the next one would be at index 2. So this one would execute here. This one would execute here. They're all getting the message. And then the light can set light color. Split that up. I have a nephew who's playing with my dog, going crazy. Cool. RGBA. It's in the world. Okay. And let's send it out. So in Max, we don't need that one anymore. We have this thing that's going around that has those three numbers. Those are different numbers. Or gonna say prepend. Oh, well, I did it in three different ways. Right. It can all be in the same address. Let's try that first. You can do it as three different addresses, which is probably easier. Let's okay. So we're gonna keep them all. Let's do it this way then. There's many different ways to do this. We keep them all index 0 and do it all three different addresses. Cool. So now we're just gonna look at these three different addresses. And then we'll be done with this. So we have a new, we're going to unjoin some floats. Oops. And you can see that these are, here's some messages. Right, so these are the things that are coming out, separated out. Cool. We're gonna say new prepend Todd R. G. And B. And then we can send the UDP. Cool. So now these things are coming through. Let's go ahead and hit play. And see it coming through. No debug object set. So you think it's not in the world. Try again. All right. Prepend .r .g .b do. Why is it not giving me that highlight? Let's call this 2. Because it was the same one, right? Let's do top light 2. That makes it easier to see. That's prepend. All right. Good lectures of class. See. Do message. So Todd R. We should be getting Todd R. Okay. All we're index 0. It is top light 2. We can also do it the way with the branch. I'll figure this out. There's probably again one button. I don't want to belabor this anymore because this has already been a really long, arduous demo. But this is the whole approach for how do you want to get at Here, let's correct parent. Then we can play. Oh, we need to connect it, maybe. That's Todd Light. That's Todd Light 2. There we go. There we go. We're getting values. It wasn't connected. It wasn't getting from OSC parent. That's good. And it looks like it's getting these values. Cool. It's working. I almost gave up on you guys, or myself, I guess I should say. How can we tell? Let's hit stop. Let's do a basic shape. Do a white cube in here. And we'll be able to see a bit easier. Take the light, make it more intense. Light 2. Bring it over here. There it goes. So as the moon machine goes, it goes. We're VJing in a game engine. Cool. All right. So if anyone's left, I'm sure that was exhausting for everyone. Let's take a quick break and come back at like 4, and we'll do a quick multi-user session, and you guys will get to play along, so you guys get to actually be active and just not watch me drone on and on and on. For right now, though, before we take a break, I'm going to hit stop. Everything is kind of named for me. I'm going to go ahead and save all, close, and then what I'll do is I'll take this show control, which is in, I think we'll put it in my downloads. And then in our project, our shared project, I'm going to make a new folder called imports, add it. Add it the max batch. And then that way everyone has it to open up and they don't even have to do it from scratch. They could just alter my address names. OSC show control. Cool, so everyone has that. And let's go ahead and take the break and be back in about 5 minutes, and we'll try to get done as soon as possible. All right, everyone? Is everyone there? Is anyone here? Okay, I see a thumbs up. Okay, I'll see you guys at 4. All right, bye guys. I'm gonna hit pause. So for multi-user editing, we need to have, it is a client server live collaboration. I could be the server, but I'm not going to be, I'm going to be one of the clients too. So we're going to remote into my other computer and set the server there, and then we're all clients on it. Right? It has real-time synchronization of assets, and then it's all being synced over UDP, right? We're sending UDP back and forth. It is, along with source control, we all need to have our editor connected to source control. When we join multi-user editing, it's going to switch source control to the local or the project's server, and then we'll sync it back to the one that's inside of my SVN. All right. And then you can do Mac, Windows, Linux, which is fine. We can see where each other is. We'll have an avatar, just like we did in collaborative design, and make sure that everything's still in sync. And then it works over our VPN or LAN, but in this case, we'll be using VPN. So we all have to be using the same engine build. That's why we stayed on 4.2.1. We're all on the same build. We have to be on the same network. The project name has to match, but that's because we're in version control, so it's fine. And then we want to be the same content. If somebody's not in the same revision, then they won't have those assets to work with. So it's kind of, that might create some conflict issues, right? So as you might have known, I've seen before, you need to be in source control before you start. So I would suggest for everyone to, again, if you don't want to follow along, and and you're checked out, that's fine. For those who are more adventurous and want to actually try to have fun with this, I'm in our version control. I'm going to make sure I've updated. So I'm 64 from updating. And then when I commit, I could add in the show control. So let's do show control. Cool. So we're on revision 65. Everyone, if you want to pull, be in revision 65. 65. Cool. And when you open up the project, you need to make sure your version control is connected. All right, so this is a new computer. I haven't been connected to it before. I'm going to get my repository from our virtual production thing right here. So we're going to copy the link. Put it in here. And then that same document, my username is Todd. And then my password is VP123. Accept settings. At the same time, I am going to look at my laptop that I've been using to teach from this semester. And then it's also on 65. Cool. And then I think it's already connected to source control. Yes. So it's also connected to source control. And we'll see that they're all on Subversion to start off with for right now. Cool. Let's go back to the presentation. Sorry, we'll kind of be switching back and forth a lot. So we'll get used to that. Cool. So I'll move this guy away. So the next step, this is kind of this is already built in to anything that's on film TV settings. So if we're going to start from scratch, I have included lessons for how to include multi-user editing if you have not, but this should already be included. We can always check. So we say edit plugins and make sure multi-user is turned on. Oh, it's not turned on. So we're gonna be at revision 66, guys. Thank you very much for looking at this, Todd. So let's look at the presentation. So the only plugins are multi-user editing. Search for multi-user, then it'll make us restart. So I'm going to restart. And all it's going to do is it's going to update this this project file has a list of all the plugins we're using, and that's all it's doing is it's adding in true under multi-user client. So I will let you guys catch up. I'll commit this. Multi-user turned on. And then we're in revision 66. And which I'll do remotely as well, so you guys get that lovely experience of being connected. Cool. All right. So we already know how to use version control. This is kind of a standalone presentation, but you don't need to use your intermediate and save. That is local files. These are the ones highlighted in green are the ones you want to actually add to your repository. And then we already know how to do a we already knew how to do a VPN. So I have some different settings we're going to go to. So in our project, and you guys can do this as well. You can just watch me, whichever you want for right now. We have, first of all, multi-user editing. Do you want to include a toolbar on the top so it's easy to get to? And then what's your display name and what's your array color? And then what is the server port you're going to be using? So I'm going to set this up on this computer, which has never been touched before. Project settings, down to multi-user on the left side, multi-user editing. And then do you want to include the toolbar? If you do, you have to restart the project. Do we want to auto connect? Retry auto connect. These all sound like great ideas. And then we go down to our name, which is Todd. And then avatar color, I'll be a nice NYU violet. And then underneath advanced, we're going to say server port is 7,000. I will go ahead and I think that the syllabus already has a link to this presentation, so you can see it yourself. But to reiterate, so this presentation is here in the syllabus. And I am just going to, well, I'll go ahead and enable this. This is going to make a restart, but it doesn't need to be committed to repository. This is just my config files. Great. So enable multi-user, give a name, give a color, and then what port are you going to be on? And we're using port 7,000. For project settings. And again, I turned all those things on. Todd, color, and then the server port is 7,000, and that was underneath advanced. Great. Let's go back to the presentation and do next steps. Or to reiterate, I will go over to my remote computer, project settings, multi-user, and then turn all these suckers on, call it server computer. White is fine for the server computer, and then underneath advanced, it's on 7,000. And then we should restart now. All right. Next thing we have to do, we're going to host a server. So that's a computer that's remote. You guys don't do this. I'm going to do this myself. So just watch me for right now. If you're not trying to catch up, but I am going to set up just the server remotely. Again, you don't really want to run the server on a computer that somebody's going to be using, because it will eat up resources. So remotely, I'm going to go to project settings and go over to UDP messaging at the very, very, very bottom. Cool. Again, according to the presentation, this is plugins UDP messaging at the very bottom. Go all the way to the bottom, and this is only for hosting the server. So I'm going to say 00000 UDP messaging. Oh, sorry, remotely. So we'll leave that blank. That's perfectly fine. And if advanced, we want to add in some static endpoints. Again, I'm just doing this on the server for right now. Nothing here. We want to add a text box. And then we're going to put in the server's IP address over our VPN with 7,000 at the end. All right. So this one, if remember, is 192.168.194.61:7,000. 1 second. Second. All right. So the server's set up and running. Cool. All right, so that's the server. So I'm going to set up and host a multi-user server. So now at the top, we have this multi-user session. We are going to go and this, if I wanted to, I could go back to the settings really quickly here. But I'm going to launch a multi-user server. Cool. And then we have sessions right here, right? Cool. Back in here. It's a little frozen. Give me a second. Oh, let's do it remotely. That's why. Doink, doink. So everything's there. Set up. Let's go over to here, and we're going to say launch a server. Now it's going to launch a server because I have it set up for launch a server. Please. Show all. Okay, let's see. That's the session browser. There we go. Creating a session. Session's called in class. All right, so the server computer has started a session and it's there. It has this thing right here, which is our server window, which used to be just a command prompt. That's why I was confused. It used to be a command prompt, but now it actually has a whole interface here. And this is the server. So what's cool about this being a standalone application is that if this instance of the editor crashes, the server still runs and everyone who's connected can still be connected to what I'm doing. Cool. So now that I'm remotely setting up a server, let's look at setting up myself as a client. So let's go back to the presentation. Cool. So joining one, we now need to put our computer and the multicast endpoint. So if I go to the real project, looks like it crashed because I was trying to set up a server on it. Let's go ahead and open it back up. Cool. So now I go to UDP for clients, and I'm going to choose my computer that's on the 192.168.194. So that's connected there. Port 0. And then I'm also going to say add a static endpoint. And what is on the static endpoint is the server computer. And the server computer, this is incorrect. Server computer is, I'll type it into Slack. It's 192.168.192.161. Sorry, 194.61. And this is just for today. I will move to a different computer later on. So connect me to the server computer. Just real quick. Crash it real quick. Sorry. My family was literally cycling through the circuit breaker while I was teaching this and then shut off the power to the computer. So we're now gonna get it connected as a client. Cool. So back to project settings, UDP endpoint, UDP messaging. We're gonna set this endpoint, which is the 192.164.681.194.61, and then it needs to be on colon 7000. So that is now in Slack with including the colon. Cool. And I should be able to find a session. So let's go ahead and look for my session browser. And hopefully, yep, I see the server that is in Brooklyn. I'm gonna double click on it. And Meredith is there, and we're on the default sample level. Cool. So we're gonna leave the server where it is. Let's play a game of so again, we've done steps a couple times. I see Meredith is already ahead of me. I'm going to now say let's create a new level. I'm gonna make an empty level and say create, and then I'll give it a little save. Maybe I'll put like a light in here. Give it a save. And then our assets, I'll call this one build or this build. And then if you look at the multi-user browser, now Todd is in a map called test build, and these are hyperlinks. So if Meredith was going to want to look for me, she hits the hyperlink, and then now I see Meredith right there, right? So we're now on level. Meredith, would you like to add things to the level? Anything
Oh,
for the content?
this is weird.
Yeah, it's totally weird. But you see me, I see you. Everyone can see the screen. We're screen recording the thing that's happening. So there's proof that's working. If you want to, or I can do it. We can go into landscape mode, and I can just create a landscape. Give it a second. And again, we're misusing this tool. It really isn't for creating things from scratch. It's for finessing things that already exist, but we're just kind of having fun. So now we should have a thing in there, but we might not be able to see it just yet until we bring in lights. So let me go to the window and bring up the environmental light mixer, and then we'll add in a skylight, an atmosphere, atmospheric light, clouds and fog. And now I can see Meredith's sphere. I can see that you're over there. Can you see a landscape yet?
No.
So I'm gonna hit save all, and save the map. Now see if it shows up. And give it a second. So it should show up eventually. So certain things like landscapes have to be saved before they show up. Other things like lights and trees have no problem. So I can go into static meshes and look for like the tree that's been part of the collaborative project. And you guys should be able to see the tree immediately. Tanya, are you in there? Let's see who else is in here now. We have Tanya's in here as well. Someone else want to add a tree or a mesh?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, you can see it. Try add your own. See, all right. And now where people are sculpting the landscape in front of me, I can see that happening as well. Again, it might boot some people. It should work for Mac. I have seen it boot Mac people more than Windows. So we're now doing a collaborative session, which is really, really cool. Let's go back to the presentation, make sure we're not skipping any steps. So if you look back at your version control setting, it now says, if you say change revisions control settings, you'll see now the provider is multi-user. It's saying it's getting its information from that multi-user server, not from my SVN anymore. So that's proof that we're all connected correctly. And then boom, boom, boom. And so what's also cool is that we can actually do sequences together. So if you two who are in here now, it looks like no one got booted yet, so you're both there. That's great. You see how we have now a list of all things that have happened. So we see the whole history. If anyone were to join now, it would have this history remembered, and they would have it stored, and then it would propagate it through. And so you can join later on. Again, this is just one session. We have many sessions in one project. We can be working on many maps in one project, right? So like my server camera is still in sample level. It could be making changes there. We can have 5 different levels, 8 different levels being working at a time. Again, it might break it, it might crash it, but at least this is kind of fun to get started. So let's each make a sequencer. Go up to level sequence objects and say add a level sequencer. We'll put in assets. I'll make a folder for sequencers. Actually, you won't see anything. If I make a new folder, I don't know if you'll see it. And I'll call mine Todd sequencer. Save. I'm going to add a camera to mine. Keep it at the 150 seconds or 150 frames. And then I'm just going to animate mine really quickly. I'm going to add in a transform for my first keyframe, scroll to the end, move it to look at the tree, and then add another keyframe. If you guys want to work in your own sequencers, we can be working simultaneously to make camera paths, right? Maybe I want to do a focus pool. I want to add in focal length as a keyframe. So over here, maybe I want to have it be a little wider. All right, so, and it's a little buggy. Mine just closed. If I lock in though, I should be able to see. So right now, somebody else is scrubbing my sequencer, because right now it says when multi-user playback sync, if the option is able, playback and scrubbing the sequencer is synchronized across all users. So whoever was doing that before, go ahead and keep on scrubbing. Right? So somebody else is scrubbing my sequencer. You could be showing other people's stuff. But if we wanted to, I could turn that off and you're no longer seeing. So you have all these new multi-user settings that are at the top of your sequencer. We can do remote open, right? So with this on, I can close the sequencer. It'll close it for everyone else. And when I say, oh no, guys, we're going to go into the Todd sequencer, we open it up, then it'll open up for everyone else as well. And everyone else is right beside me or hanging out near me, right? So if you guys want to try to do your own though, say add level sequencer.
Wait, where should I put it?
The sequencer, just put it in the assets folder. It's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Add your name to it so we know that it's yours. Cool. So now I see the other sequencer is called Meredith. I'm going to close it. I don't want to be open sync or playback sync. I want to be on my own sequencer, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm sure it's a default setting we can have. So I have my own sequencer I'm playing around with. I can lock in those settings. In the meantime, I'm going to create a new sequencer called top level, or whatever I want to call it. And then in this one, I can add a shots track, and then I can grab Todd sequencer, make it a little bit longer, make it 450 frames. Oops, is that the right place? Make it 450 frames. Okay, add in Meredith's, and then go over to frame 300, and then add in Taney's. And then as we add in cameras, we can see that I can see the different sequencers all lined in. So we can all be dividing our time with different virtual cameras, different and keyframe animations, and then they live update, and then it can be added to our sequencers. So I can watch all these changes happen in real time. So this is just a cool feature. You see all the change settings. So let's make sure we're looking at everything. So yeah, that's about the synced playback. So that's all documented here. And then the last thing we need to do is archive and close the session. So I'm going to ask if both my cohort of Taney and Meredith, can you now leave? It's the very top right of the session browser. Leave current session. So Meredith's left. Also, I can hide them. I can find them, jump to a location. All right, so there's Taney right here. Have you seen a way to exit out of here? I'm also going to exit. I'm going to leave. All right, so I'm out of here now. I'm going to close it so I don't make any changes that are not in revision. All right, so I don't want to make any changes. Just going to close. A good neighbor. And I'm going to switch now to my remote session. I'm right here. I can see that I'm by myself. Everyone else has already left. Okay. I can now go right click on here. Or where is the button? Nope, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and close myself. You're about to leave. Do you want to persist the changes? So this is the final step, is I want to take it from my local server and put it back into my Tortoise SVN. So let's go ahead and say, yes, all these changes need to persist. They need to stay. These are things like we can mess around all day long and say, I don't want to keep it. And then we can say, don't persist changes. But I'm going to say, yes, I want these changes to be committed. These are all the changes that they are. I say, submit it to my Tortoise SVN from multi-user class. And then I don't want to keep them checked out, submit. And then everything is done correct. It should end this session view, and all these different time-coded things will be added to there it goes, updating. It's a little slow, but again, this is supposed to be on the fastest computer that's on the server, that is the server. I would do it normally from a computer on Wi-Fi, or laptop on Wi-Fi.
So you're updating all of our stuff?
Yep, all the changes
Okay.
were saved on that little server node, which is this little icon right here. This is the actual server. So
Got
now,
it. So
yep,
so if I so if I quit and don't save anything like that, all those changes are still there.
yeah, it's all
Okay.
based on like you can crash and you can come back in and everything is all saved in that server. even the server can be playing along and crash, and as long as this window is still there, it's all saved. So now even I think I can even close this editor and this will still be open. Yes. So this is the multi-user server. It's still open. And then we have a session called in class. So you can actually have multiple sessions if you want to as well, but I think that might get pretty confusing. But I can now say archive or delete. So we can always come back to this session. We can archive it or we can delete it, but we can keep on going back to end class. End class will be where we are next week, right? I don't need to get rid of it or doing other things with it. So everything's good here. And then just to make sure, double check, I'm gonna try to commit. And everything, there's no changes to be made. Everything is already submitted to Tortoise SVN. So if I were to now be here local, on my computer here with me in North Carolina, I'm gonna now pull, and I'm gonna get all those things we just made. And then when I open them up, I'll have them. So now everyone who wasn't part of the multi-user session can now be part of revision 67. And then all those changes are included. So this is how we can build the class, 17 people can build the project in class next week together and effectively test it and stuff with live mocap being added in. It's kind of crazy how we can do all this stuff. So I go to my maps, we can prove that test build is still here and it looks like it did when we left. It's in the server. Cool. It's a really interesting feature and hold on to these step-by-step instructions dearly because it took a while to get this to work. But if you do exactly what these settings say, you can get it to work and then you can have fun and work as a whole class at one time and without having to say, hey, can you check that in? Can you check that in? Can you check that in? Everyone's live working and it's as fast as you could possibly be. We can be recording live mocap and doing everything while everyone's laptops are open and connected. As you can imagine, we're going to have issues with bandwidth, but let's push the limits for all I care because us finding out where it breaks is good information for us. How often do you have 17 people testing this feature at one time in one room? Cool. So that was the last thing I wanted to show you was the multi-user thing. So just remember, if you didn't get caught up in last week, do try to get live mocap. I'll keep it rolling for a little while. And then this week, find my parent blueprint and you're gonna make your own blueprint that's off of my parent blueprint. So it's gonna be make a child of the parent OSC blueprint. And then do show control connected to your map. And put that in your map. And then we can all be doing a live session next week where all of us have show control that's being recorded as a sequencer at one time. Cool. And I'll go through the script and like try to fix some punctuation stuff. I'll go through the syllabus, make sure everything makes sense. But this is where I wanted to get you. I got a little bit behind when I had to like install the software from scratch today. But it looks like we ended up in a place where everything worked, and I think I redeemed myself by getting things to work. You got to see all the ways to make mistakes. Right? It was a teachable moment, as they say. So with that, have a great few days off, and I'll see you next week. Cool. Let me know if you need anything over Slack, and eat some turkey if you can. All right, bye.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.